Greetings and welcome to Metaphysical Awakenings with Barbara and Eric. Today's topic is a little bit heavier, a little bit more serious, or actually a lot more serious than some of the other topics we've discussed, but
Yeah.
a very important one that many have been directly impacted by or know someone who's been directly impacted by.
Yeah.
And the title is Self-Removal from the Earth Plane.
Yeah. So that's a very, very heavy on my heart, as I'm sure you've had friends or loved ones who have chosen to give up on this plane of existence because it just gets too hard. And I have a unique perspective because I download a lot of information and I try to share that which might heal and help another soul. You know, at church, I'm kind of known when I speak as the tool giver. And this is an important topic for people to understand why someone would choose to end their life.
That's the biggest question that I hear. Why did that happen? Why would they do that? Is there a simple answer for that, or is it multifaceted?
Well, it's simple, but it's extremely multifaceted.
Okay.
And we spoke in one of the other episodes about our soul contract, aka blueprint. And there are times when we are over on the other side, as one of my beloved guides, Sylvia, would say, we're over sitting on our cloud and we're eating our porridge and drinking our wine and we're very happy. And we decide that we can put all of these really difficult things into our soul contract, our blueprint for our next lifetime.
Okay.
And so basically we do. And from what I understand, there is a council that we sit with before we go, and they counsel us to say, yes, this is a wonderful learning lifetime, or this looks like it might be a little bit too taxing. You may want to, draw back on some of that. And with free will being what it is, once we're down here, some of us don't take to advice.
Okay.
And we choose to dive down, come through the birthing process with this enormously jam-packed contract, just full of hard things. Hard things. I can give so many different examples, and maybe I should. Babies being kidnapped and then putting into sex trafficking. We have a mutual friend that lived through that, and God bless her, she speaks on it all the time. My heart goes out to her because of what she went through, that just makes you sit back and cry. But be her courage.
One of the most courageous people I know, absolutely.
In the song, I made it through the rain, comes through for that. But there's others. Children go through so many abuses. And that leads to self-medication and doing things that are not good for our human body. There are just so many, divorces happen. Children take that personally. And we grow and we grow and we grow with all of these terribly sad and traumatic things pushed down, because as children, we think it's our fault.
Yes.
And we blame ourselves.
Especially with something like a divorce. Children go straight to themselves thinking that they were the source of their parents splitting up, which is the farthest thing from the truth, but totally understandable from a children's perspective because their whole lives are being uprooted.
Yeah, it's devastating. And we're talking about all of this heavy stuff. Well, it's kind of like planting different levels of grief and anger and just all these negative emotions, and we tend to push those down, 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 rather than be embarrassed and bring them out into the light to be healed or understood, because a lot of time because of pride or fear. Oh, here we go back to that fear thing. We got to talk about fear too.
And that's why I'm glad that we are discussing this sensitive subject here, because there's a lot of fear surrounding it, and I'm hoping during this time we can alleviate some of that fear and view it through love and light.
That's our goal.
However difficult it may be.
Right.
So going back to the soul contract, are you suggesting that some people make a contract to where they are going to have all these obstacles along the way and they want to try to get through them, but there's a chance that they might?
There is a very strong chance that they may not. And what happens is, remember we talked about how we're going through life, we get to the Y in the road, and we try, and we don't quite get there, and we come back around, and we have to keep repeating it and repeating it and repeating it. If we do not get to take care of that in this lifetime, it's carried over into the next lifetime. I'm on the third lifetime for certain things that I had not gotten through. Thankfully, I got to the end of my karmic debt, understanding what that was. But these are the kind of things that, with the hangover, if you will, which is a terrible term, but going into the next life, this starts to compile as well. A lot of people will call it karmic debts, and I think I just referred to that. But anyway, all of this weighs on a human being. Remember that we are spiritual people, spiritual beings having a human experience. When we are able to flip into our spiritual self, we can usually get through these things because we know we're meant to learn, not fail.
Right.
We're here to learn and grow and do and be and get rid of all of this man-made fear. However, it doesn't work that way sometimes for some people. And I will say, especially those who are empathic, who have a very right-brained, emotional personality. They keep seeing themselves as more and more and more of a failure. It's not meant to be that way, but that's how we discern it. And on the earth plane, when God kissed us on our forehead and let us go down the chute, so to speak, we have free will.
That's right.
We have free will. And God and the angels and the saints and all of the beautiful beings will not come and intercede on your behalf until they are asked to do so. You have to ask because we were given this so-called gift of free will.
Got it. So if you're not willing to ask, then the angels won't be able to come and help you.
Well, in extreme emergent times,
yes,
there are those moments in life, and I had one with my best friend that all the laws of physics disappeared and you know, that kind of a thing. They step in so we don't lose our life. However,
I've heard stories when people were at their lowest and have tried to self-delete themselves, that miraculously, like all the pills that they took, that didn't end up affecting them.
Right.
And so you can explain it by, like, you know, the angels stopped in to help them.
Yeah.
Or whatever other method they were trying to use somehow miraculously didn't work.
Yeah.
So in that moment,
the intervention comes.
Yeah.
In some moments they don't. And the dreaded thing occurs. And a life is lost because of emotional backup and fear. And what I'm here to explain, that which was given to me, is that people have to understand that our soul contract in our blueprint is meant to help us grow. If we put too much on our plate and we're unable to grow, the spirit, the humanness kind of overrides the spirit,
Right.
and they exit. They choose to leave this time, this space, this life, and get out of all of the grief and the pain.
In the pain, yes.
All of it. I had a, and there are other cases as well where people will self-eliminate, as you said. It was around Christmas time, and I got this phone. Oh, let me back with a little story. I was a fairly good pool billiards player, and Daddy was an elk for 50 some years, and I would go down and visit him often after my mother passed because he needed me. And I would get there, and he did all of the maintenance outside, so I met all the guys. He'd come in and work his tail off for a free beer, don't you know? Well, anyway, as I'm waiting for him to finish what he's doing, I would jump into the pool room and see who's racking him up and see if a little girl can butt in. The little girl ain't going to be able to play, right? Well, I met a curmudgeon of a man, and his name was Eddie. And Ed this, Ed that, he was wonderful at what he was doing. He was a great pool player. And I forced him to like me. I called him Fast Eddie. And he...
Made a curmudgeon like you.
I made the curmudgeon like me. And just, he became my friend. Mm-hmm. And so I would meet him on the days that I lived in Merritt Island at the time, Florida. And I would drive from Merritt Island to Titusville to meet Daddy. And, Eddie would be there. Right. And so months and months, I have this wonderful relationship with Fast Eddie. As I was saying, the Christmas time came up. And I got a phone call from, this is Lieutenant such and such with the Titusville Police. Is this Barbara McGillicuddy? And I'm like, yes. And he asked me, did I know a man named Edward such and such? And I'm like, no, I don't. That name doesn't ring a bell to me at all. And he explained that he had gone into Mr. Edwards' home, and there was nothing there except my lone Christmas card. It was the only card that he had. No Christmas tree, nobody there. And he had chosen to take himself off of the planet. And I told the lieutenant, obviously, yes, of course I do. I knew him by Fast Eddie because we played pool. And I said, there is a barmaid at the Elks Club that could help you a lot better than I, and I gave the name.
Yes.
And so all of that happened, and of course I came into town, and I was looking for that barmaid, and we just called her Sis. I said, Sis, what happened to Eddie? Why? She said, Barbara, you can't take this personally, honey. He had metastasized cancer, and he told me when his time came that he couldn't handle it anymore, he was going to take himself out.
So it was from physical pain. I thought it was emotional pain from not having friends, but it was physical pain.
That is another one.
Right.
We can get into the Jack Kevorkian and all of that discussion, but I don't want to put my opinions over this. I want to share that which comes through
right.
and explain things. So.
Interesting. A friend of mine who has gone through a similar experience, losing a loved one. It happened right around Christmas time as well.
Always Christmas.
And that's one reason that, the holidays for some people are not a time that they look forward to. So it's important to, be sensitive, knowing that, holidays are not always the happy times for people.
Right. And invite those people who look like they're alone to Christmas with you and your family. That's kind of how I started bringing friends in. And anyway, going back to what we're talking about here,
lost myself. You were mentioning earlier about divorce, and I think people who choose to take themselves off the earth plane tend to be certain demographics, like you mentioned, people who are more empathetic,
right?
Empathic, or more right brain centered. I've also heard the statistic that it adversely affects men.
Yeah.
It also adversely affects children who do not have a father figure.
Okay. Yes.
And these two things are can sometimes be related,
right?
Through family court situations. Often, maybe not often, sometimes fathers will no longer be able to see their children.
Yes.
They've had everything taken away from them as far as their house, their money, and they can deal with that, but then whenever they're no longer able to see their child or children, that can bring a man to a very low place.
Indeed. And that goes to another whole realm of things, those who become homeless.
Right.
And they become, in their own minds, worthless.
Right.
And or unworthy. That is the time where the step is probably coming. And there's been many I used to let me just qualify this because it's going to sound like I'm like Miss Know-It-All. I worked on an ambulance for several years, and
right,
I was
EMT, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I would run these calls when things like this would happen, and it was always around Christmas that people actually have natural passing too. It's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have more of a awareness of this than we even know. But the sad things are that our society has all of the emphasis on, love and family and joy and all of these things, as we should be as a regular, normal human being. But there are those that just don't feel that for themselves. And it takes a friend or a loved one to recognize this is going on with people, because they don't necessarily have to be mentally ill or anything else. They're just beyond low, and usually self-medicated in some way. And eventually that leads to not having money anymore and having to do things to get more money, to get more stuff. And it's just easier for them to, choose to leave at that time. And our whole point today is that there really can be an explanation, and that is overcrowding our soul contract. Choosing to leave in the middle is never an option on God's side. That would not be something, that they would have you do.
So no one signs up in a soul contract to delete themselves.
I don't believe that is a fact. I think that people can sign up to choose a certain sort of passing,
right,
just for the experience for their next life, because I am all about reincarnation and coming back and learning and growing and that sort of thing. But
it comes back to free will.
Correct.
That even though we might sign up for something, we still have the ability to not do what we intended to do.
Right.
And free will it's kind of like a double-edged sword. It's beautiful because it can lead to amazing things that we would never expect, or we could do things that are not in our best interest, or in other people's best interest, or in my. And at that time, I mean, I can't discredit anyone who's feeling that low and who feels like that's in their best interest. Like your friend who had the cancer that metastasized.
The pain was beyond anything that he could grapple with, and he didn't. Sis told me also he would never be a burden to another person, and that's what kind of, I'm sorry, ruined my whole holiday season, that he wasn't a burden to me.
Right.
He was my pool buddy. And that,
Yeah, a lot of times I hear people say, oh, that was so selfish of that person to do because they didn't realize what they did. But in a way, for your friend, he was being unselfish by not wanting him to be a burden to anyone.
In his own mind,
in his own
was.
mind.
Correct. Do you remember the story when we were having the pet blessing at the church and how I got jumped?
Yes, I think you told that in episode 3 or 4.
Okay, let
yes.
me retell it for just to qualify those who may not seen it. As a medium, my light was very bright, and we were doing animal blessings, and I was actually doing a healing on this wonderful little dog. And a friend of mine had come, and she was talking about how she had just lost a friend who had chosen not to be here, and boop, he jumped me. He jumped into my body without my permission, and I was mad. But before I pushed him out, I felt why he had done that. He didn't ask permission because he knew I probably wouldn't get it. And it was so important to him to let his family and his friends, everybody that he loved, know that he's so very sorry for what he has done. Because on the other side, you can see how that affects everybody. And that's probably what brought this whole discussion up. For Eric and I to speak about.
That must have been what it was.
Yeah, I managed to push him out, but that was powerful for not only my learning, even though he jumped me, but it was even more important that my girlfriend could go and share that with his family and friends, because he never took into account. People become so mentally focused on what they're going to do and how they feel. The rest is out. It's not. They're unable to consider other things. And so, we've got this thing going both ways, and I'm not here saying, it's not for me to say whether it's good or bad or anything like that. I'm simply wanting to share a reason that I understand, as was given me from the other side, that these people just put too much on themselves, and the human nature took over. And caused them to understand, oh my gosh, I'm not going to make it through this. And try as they may, what you think of yourself in the law of attraction is what comes. And that's where things start to go down. And that was the whole reasoning behind speaking of this today. I hope it doesn't come off as anything but a loving gesture for understanding.
If anyone who's watching is in a really low place, any advice that you can offer them?
Yeah, we should try to put up an 800 number for someone to call. Use your phone a friend. Call somebody who cares and will listen. You are not alone in this place. Walk to a firehouse. Talk to the police department. Talk to anyone who will listen, because
go to your local church.
100%. Yes.
They'll take you in right away.
In most cases, yes. I just, life is precious. You have this life, and there are people who love you, whether you know that or remember that or can even feel that in the moment.
That's right. Whenever someone or yourself is in such a low place, we forget how many people love us. It's just something we can't fathom or take in that truth.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been the recipient of a couple phone a friends calling me when they had reached their last moment. And it wouldn't matter where I was. I was able to run, hold their hand, and it's not for me to tell you how to feel or what to do. It's for me to listen.
Sure. What advice would you give to someone who knows someone who is in that mental state? Like if they want to help but just don't know how to help.
Do your best to listen and then get a hold of someone that you know who has a higher pay grade in psychology in that direction. That's what I've done.
Okay.
I don't pretend to know, all about the human mind and what to do. I lead them and guide them and make them understand that there is still love and I care and I love you, but I have to pass you off to somebody who can help you from this point. I'm going to be there if you fall backward, but this person can help you a little bit further down the road than I am.
Right.
I can.
And what advice or loving sentiments would you like to share with people in the audience who have been, whether directly or indirectly, impacted by something that's happened like this? A lot of times they have not only pain but guilt.
Okay.
Because they might feel like they were a reason behind it.
People have free will, and it is a person's decision. It's between them and God. You are a player in a play of their life, if that makes any sense. And guilt is a word that I really, really don't like, because guilt infers that you personally and directly went out to cause harm to, or created a situation where it was going to adversely affect someone so badly that there would be harm coming. Now, there is regret that I would prefer that you use. We can regret that this happened to the people that we know and love. And, it's a situation that happened. We have no say so. I regret that you had to witness and go through all of that. But it's not your place to take responsibility. It's not. We all play a part in people's lives. And we can choose to be that loving vibration as far as we can. There are some people who just make it difficult, so we know that perhaps this is not a relationship that I want or need to be in. God bless you. I love you. I'm moving on. Okay? But for you to go back to that point where you said goodbye to someone and take responsibility for someone who chose to take themselves off of the planet, that's not truth. You have nothing to be guilty of. It's regrettable that this happened, but guilt is not yours. Get rid of it. Get up in the oak tree and watch it from a higher perspective. Okay? Put God in the absolute middle of everything that you do. Once you do that, everything will come to where it should. I hate the word should. It will come to a level where there can be understanding and meaning That's probably better.
Wow, that is such powerful advice, to reframe that guilt as regret.
Right? Right? Do not live a guilt-filled life. What you're going to do, you're going to cause disorder, disharmony, and what?
Disease.
Disease of the body. Pushing this down will physically make you sick. I've witnessed it hundreds of times in the healings that I have taken part in. I work and God works, and I see a whole lot of stuff. And understanding that we really are these spiritual beings who have come to have a human experience life. Find the joy. Our cup is always half full. Even in the moment where it hurts and it's just the absolute worst, put God in the middle of that moment and do nothing with it. Just sit, just be.
Okay.
Get up to that higher perspective, the tree, which I use, the oak tree, and allow everything to settle down, and then ask, God, what is mine to do? God, help me, show me where to go from here. But taking responsibility for another person's life is not your job. And I'm going to say it kind of harshly. If you jump in and you're not God. Okay, we are not God. Nobody can come in and take over my life and tell me what to do, how to feel, all of these things. That's between me and God. What goes on in my life is between me and God. I love people. I share that which I get and I know and I learn. And do I fall down? What's the name of that song we're going to do here pretty soon? The Divine 2x4 Blues.
That's right. Your original song that
we're working on now. And that is because I try to do something and it doesn't work. And I try it again and it doesn't work. And the third time, I get popped by the Divine 2x4 to knock me on my hiney so that I will have to look at what's going on and let God take it, for crying out loud. So this has been a little bit of a heavy episode. Thank you for bringing that to us with the questions. And I hope beyond all hope that we have helped someone understand to not take that personally.
And our hearts go out to you, whether you have been personally affected, know someone that's been affected, are currently in a really low situation. And in each of those situations, a great tool that you can use is how we end each of our sessions with the prayer for protection. So if you're in a low place, this prayer is so powerful.
The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
We thank you for watching. We send you love and light, and we'll see you next time.